Good evening and welcome to Domination Submission Radio, DS Radio. My name is Mike Mackay and I am your host with the most DS, BDSM, kink, and fetish talk on Blog Talk Radio or anywhere. Let me tell you how you can be a part of this show. If you'd like to call in with your questions or comments, you can call us at 347-857-1862. Again, 347-857-1862. Write that down. You're going to call me. You know you will. All right, our show tonight is going to be very interesting. Our topic this evening is Rope Bite International, and we're going to be interviewing Lokai Stein, the founder of Rope Bite International, in just a few moments. Let me tell you what else you can do to participate in the show if you'd like to. There is a chat room at the bottom of your screen if you're listening to us live at Blog Talk Radio. Just scroll down. If you'd like to say something in the chat room, you do have to be registered at Blog Talk Radio with a free account. However, it's pretty easy to do, and it'll allow you to post your questions in the chat room. We'll try and get them on the air. Check out our website at domination-submission.com. That's domination-submission.com, where you can find out more about the show, more about myself, and my book, which happens to be an Amazon bestseller at this very moment. The book is Domination and Submission, the BDSM Relationship Handbook, so check that out, please. All right, so my co-host this evening, and almost every evening, is switchy, masochist, Amazon redhead, Little Red, and she is broadcasting live from just about 30 feet away from me, aren't you, Red?
I'm here.
We are trying a new setup this evening. Our virtual studio has actually kind of become a real-life studio, and unfortunately, turns out we can't be in the same room together, and not because she has her shoes off. So.
Okay, I got you, Daddy. Game on. Little Red is going to be cruel and inhuman now.
Now, be nice. Be nice. You know, that's what we have you here for, because you're such a nice person. All right, so we are going to
my sparkling wit and personality is just so in demand.
We are going to get right into our subject for the evening, which is rope play and Rope Bite International. Our guest this evening is Lokai Stein. Lokai Stein is an educator and rope artist who loves to bring people together and share his and their love of rope bondage. And he is the founder of a fairly new international organization called Rope Bite International. And so let's talk to Lokai and find out what he might be able to tell us about that. Are you there, Lokai?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Can you hear us?
Oh, wonderful. I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent. So before we get too much into the organization that you founded and what the organization hopes to accomplish, tell me a little bit about yourself. You're a professional rope artist. How does one become a professional rope artist?
Wow. The only reason I'm considered a professional rope artist is because I've been paid for my rope art. So anyone who receives a purse or any type of monetary gain could be considered professional in anything. For me, I was practicing rope bondage since I was 6 years old. Didn't know what I was doing, but that's just how it goes. When I got older, I realized that every person that I had ever dated had allowed me to tie them up. Later on, I realized there were other people who did this and not just me. And so I found TESS, the Eulenspiegel Society in New York City, about 20 years ago, and found out there was a whole bunch of us who really liked rope. From that point forward, I started just taking lessons with everyone I could find. I started teaching when I realized, or other people realized, that I was good at what they liked and what I liked. And for the last 19-plus years, I've been educating as a rope bondage instructor as well as many other aspects of BDSM. I'm an educator by profession, by education, a couple of master's degrees in education. So standing in front of a whole bunch of people and teaching them something became rather simple for me. It was just my calling, I guess you can say. And I was able to also talk about my passion. So through that, I became a photographer, published a lot of bondage images as well as others. And then I guess you can say I became a true professional outside of teaching and photography when I was hired as the lead dominant of hogtied.com, which is the premier rope bondage BDSM porn site in the world. Did that for a couple of years, and that's where I guess you can say I was a professional. I got paid to go into work in the morning, commute in, and do what I love to do, rope bondage-wise. And that was about it.
Think that you're going to be a professional rope bondage educator?
Being an educator, yes. I said, I'm going to share my passion. First I started sharing it, and then I started actually teaching it where it was more than just sharing what I know, but actually educating other people. And I do think there's a difference between the two, which we can talk about further on. But no, I never thought that it would be something that I'd be able to say, hey, Ma, I got a great job, fantastic benefits, making a lot of money. Yes, it's actually doing something that I love. And she's like, great, you're using your master's degree? I was like, no. Well, actually, in a way. So, no, I never thought I would have that truly 1 in a million opportunity to be a male-dominant rope artist that people actually paid to look at what I was doing. Mm. So, no, that I never expected.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Every once in a while, I just sit back and thank my lucky stars that I get paid to be a professional smartass, basically, as a I mean, who else gets that privilege? Now, there's a difference, obviously, between shibari and kinbaku. Tell the audience a little bit about what differentiates the two.
Truthfully, you could ask 13 different people and get 26 different answers or more than that. Those are Japanese terms, basically, for rope bondage, tying people up, getting tied, the act of tying. I'm not going to go into the semantics of the Japanese language. There are going to be purists who say the tradition of kinbaku-bai goes back thousands of years, and others are going to say that word did not exist until 50 years ago. I do rope bondage. It is Japanese-inspired. It's been trained. I've trained with people considered Japanese masters and from their students and from their students beyond. So I'm not a purist in that sense because, truthfully, there's no way to lock down, confirm a school of art. It is all organic. It is always changing. So depending on who you ask, you're going to get different answers.
This is obviously Japanese-inspired and very much, according to some people, an ancient Japanese art. How did it make the transition from over there to over here and become so ubiquitous, so widespread in the fetish community?
Porn. Yeah, pure and simple. It's the art of tying someone to restrain them has been around for thousands of years. And the reason why in Asian culture it was done with rice rope is because that was the material that was available. In Western countries or other countries, you had steel, so that's why there were manacles. In other countries, you had different materials. So people used whatever was available to them. And just in the Japanese style, there is an art form to just about everything you do. Wrapping a package, wrapping your fish, the way you plant your trees and do your garden. And so when they were doing forms of restraint, every form of restraint had a meaning. The way the hands were held, the way that people were paraded through the streets, depending on what they were arrested for, what type of soldier they were, what level of command they had would dictate how they were tied. Then some people said, hey, I could take advantage of someone like this, and I can draw pictures of them, and I can then later photograph them, and hey, wow, you're doing it different in a different country. And eventually, once there was people traveling from one country to another, they brought their concepts from location to location. So basically, there was a necessity for titillation, and the Japanese style looked different from the American style, and so it became something to treasure or something to look at as special and unique, and so people started fetishizing just that it was from another country. And it's just a beautiful art form that a lot of us, I guess you can say Americans and Westerners, picked up because we were inspired by something that was different than what we are used to seeing around us.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to give my co-host, Little Red, a chance to ask you a question in just a moment. I'll let her compose her thoughts, so don't be surprised, Red. But the question I have for you right now, Lokai, is rope bondage a bigger thing now than it has been in the past? Is it a growing phenomenon in the fetish community, or has it always been this popular?
I'm going to give my own personal opinion on this from my own experience. When I first started tying people up, it was cowboys and Indians everyone did it. It's when you're a little kid. Okay, everyone did it. It was the big thing. And then, as I got older and became a sexual thing, rope was used if people knew how to tie a knot, and usually had the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts and the Girl Scouts and Brownies. We knew how to tie knots, so it was used. But it was used as a means to an end. It was used to tie someone down. When I first came into the scene 20 years ago, yeah, there were 2 or 3 of us. You went to a class, and there were 5 or 6 people who were able to follow along. And there was maybe 3 or 4 instructors that actually knew what they were doing and was able to actually educate and teach people to do things safely and accurately. I myself was a high-angle rescue firefighter as well as a rock climber. So I knew knots, I knew harnesses, I knew how to do that professionally. So for me, when I first saw rope bondage, I was like, oh, well, this is the easiest thing in the world. Why isn't everyone doing it? And I was the rope guy. And then there were 3 of us rope guys. And then there were 2 more rope girls. And so there were 10 of us that went to a party, and the other 90 people were doing other things, and 10 of us were doing rope. Now, just from the Internet, just from events around the world, I just came from an event where we had an entire rope track where Lou Rubens, the Hammer, and myself were the rope instructors for this amazing event. We have rope camp. We have all these events that are centered around rope, or they have huge rope tracks where people are introduced to it. So I would say now, rope is not the woo type thing. It's just something that, hey, if you want to do something pretty, do rope. And it went from leather and cuffs to, yeah, I think I'll tie knots now.
Yeah, I believe that it has become much more of an art form. I think you're exactly right. It was very much utilitarian for many, many years, and now it's become an end in itself. It's just pretty, and people aren't tying people just because they want to have sex with them or they think it's a power play of some sort. They're tying people up because it's gorgeous to look at, I think.
There's a lot of different variations to it. There is the utilitarian, which is coming out and doing something to me. There is part of the art form, which is an individual connection, which is tying me up as doing something to me. And that's the end-all, be-all. Then there's the art where I'm going to tie you up in front of other people so they can see how beautiful you are as I'm putting the ropes on. Then there's circus performance, which is for the audience, and it's the flips and the twists and the turns, and there's not much connection between the people, but there's a lot of beautiful activity. And then there's the, hey, let's push my limits, so let me push your limits, where there's extreme bondage that is, let's use as little as possible to do the most as possible, which, again, is part of the circus part of it. And then there's the heavy BDSM aspect, where it's used for pain and torture and all of that fun stuff that used to be used. We used to use to be.
I'm sorry, I've got.
You okay there?
Red is unsupervised in the back end of my house. She can't be in the same room with me because we get audio feedback here. And so, Red, ask Lokai Stein, our guest, your question.
Well, he most assuredly caught my attention with the extreme pain part of it because woo, yay, happy tingles. My thing is, have you ever combined it with like the suspension and like electrical play or suspension and flogging, and how does that work for you guys?
Absolutely. It could be combined in, it's like granimals. There's 1,000,001 ways to interchange everything, where just putting the ropes on and taking them off could be the torture. The placement of the ropes, the pressure points used, the meridians used, the bruise from last week being used as a means to an end. Then once the person is tied up, then you can start using other things. You can use it in a utilitarian way to now attach the electrodes or to use the cane, or they'll definitely stay in place when you start flogging someone when they're tied. So there's a lot of different ways to interchange it, and depending on the style, you might leave the whole back open when the rest of the body is covered with rope, just so that now you have a clear back to flog or to punch or to poke.
See, now this guy is after my heart. You so got to come out here. He said my favorite parts, the extreme pain, punching. I love percussion. I love slogging. I love the heavy impact.
You also remember where the style originally came from. It was when a soldier was taken down and they needed to be restrained in a way so that if they got out, their arms would no longer be usable to pick up a sword. So there are positions that are torture positions. So there are very, very simple techniques using one rope that could restrain someone that will cause severe pain, where a dozen ropes is comfortable and beautiful. So it all depends on what the two partners or multiple partners want to get out of an activity, that the ropes are put on different ways and used in different ways.
I have a question for you, Lokai, particularly for the people who are kind of new to the lifestyle and are still trying out new things, and maybe a person who has not tried out rope bondage per se. Do you find that there are any particular patterns of what kind of people are attracted to rope bondage? For example, Red is an extreme masochist who loves percussion play. Do those people tend to be attracted to rope or tend to go another direction?
I would never even attempt anymore to say, oh, well, if those are the things you would do, you would love bondage or not love it, or a particular style. So when I have someone come into my dojo, my class, my workspace, whatever it may be, for a lesson, I make zero assumptions. I have classes coming up next week, private sessions, where I just said, where are you now? What are you looking for? And just going through different ties and different techniques, I'll get that giggle, or I'll get the guy getting all turned on when ropes are being put on him, and say, okay, this seems like something you may like, and we'll go off in the direction that they seem to be responding to as a couple, to what style that I might introduce to them. And when I teach, I generally open it up and teach people how to learn rope bondage, how to do the fundamentals, how to do the foundation ties. I have a class called Bag of Tricks, Foundation Ties for Life. It is a 101 class, but once you're finished with that class, you can go and do any of the ties with proper instruction. You won't need to learn how to tie the knot. You'll already know that, but now you'll just learn how to place it and in what speed or what location based on the outcome that you want, pain, pleasure, or artistic beauty.
I find it interesting that you mentioned that you were a firefighter, and that's where you kind of learned knot tying. I think there was a time where everybody was a Boy Scout and they learned knot tying there. And my background is I'm a former Army Ranger, and they'd spend like 2 weeks teaching you just knot tying there because it's really important. Do you find that knot tying is a completely lost art amongst the general population these days?
Oh, absolutely. It really is. I also teach a little mini class on how to tie your shoelace, where I do find that about 70% of the people in the class have had their laces come undone just in the normal course of the day. And the reason why is they are tying a granny knot instead of a reef knot. They're just using the wrong form, and they don't know why. And so it's just something that people take for granted. And so I try to show a couple of different ways to get the same end result. And whichever one works best for you, whichever material you're using, you know you don't tie certain knots with certain types of rope. I give people the knowledge that there are different ways to get the same end result.
Now, Lil Red, you love impact play and you love bondage, but I've never seen you mess with, and for our listening audience, Red and I are not typically play partners, but we do run in the same circles and we do have a lot of common friends and go to a lot of the same events. Red, I've never seen you mess with rope. Is that because you're not interested in rope? What's the deal there?
Actually, last year we had that party out at the lake, and that was the first time I'd actually been fully suspended. I had nothing on the ground, and then a very good sadistic sadist friend of ours was actually going to crank up the voltage on a violet wand on me, and then he got distracted because it took too long to get me up, and I actually started rocking myself to sleep. had me by my hair, ankles, at the waist, harnessed through the chest.
I think we lost her. We're going to talk a little bit more about your new organization, Rope Bite International, after the break, Lokai, but I want to just kind of keep talking a little bit about just the allure of rope play for people who've never tried it and are probably very interested, or they wouldn't be listening to the show this evening. What do you tell people who are trying it out for the first time at home without ever having learned any knots or any training, but they went to the hardware store, they got a length of rope, and a woman and her husband are just going to play with rope. Does that scare you that somebody can just do that without any training whatsoever?
No, it doesn't. That's how most of us learn most of what's out there. I tell people, take rope that looks, feels, smells right to you, and that's the perfect rope. Now, just start wrapping it around. I usually say there are 3 types of people. The first type of person is someone who just wants to feel the rope on them. Doesn't matter what it looks like, what it feels like. They just want to have it wrapped around them. Doesn't matter if it's the correct knot, the correct color. Then there's the person who, quote unquote, does not want to be in the ropes. Oh no, you're not going to take me down. And as soon as you grab them and start tying, they're yours. That type of person, you need to do somewhat good knots and everything else because they won't enjoy it if the rope falls off. Then the third type of person does not want to be in it consensually. This is the type of person that you need to take them down. You need to do proper knots. You need to do things properly because they will try to escape. And then there's a mix in between all of those. There's not only 3 kinds. What I tell people when they first start is rub the rope on all different parts of your body. Have your partner do it to you, do it to yourself, and find out where it feels good, where it feels bad. Squeeze it tight, pull it loose, and just start wrapping it, and then tie it off any way you want. And if that's not enough, then you may want to learn some more. You want to do it differently. Take a look at pictures. So the thing that I tell people to watch out for are the danger things. You know that if you put rope around your neck and you tie it off and you jump off a chair, you're going to most likely die. So don't go there. But also don't shy away from wrapping the rope on your shoulders because, hey, it's still around your neck. I wear a tie every day, and I'm okay. So it depends on your intent with the rope. So I tell people just sit there and wrap it around your partner's feet, wrap it around their arms, wrap it around their waist, wrap it around their face, and just get to feel the ropes. Now, look at what other people are doing. What direction may you want to go in? Don't think there's only one way to do anything. We can show you 10 ways to do the same type of tie, fast, slow, with different intentions, lovingly, forcefully. So it's a learning experience, and the only way you're going to learn it is by trying it and doing it.
What about a couple who wants to experiment with rope and attending Bondage Expo Dallas or coming to Test Fest or any of these big events is not really on their list of priorities? They're going to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get some rope. And what kind of rope do you think they should get if they just want to go home and experiment and they're not interested in swinging from the ceiling?
Well, you can do what your parents did. You can take the sash from your robe. You can take ties if you want to stay in-house. If you want to go to Home Depot, go get number 10 rope. It comes in a bag. It's 100 feet. It's a nice, soft polypropylene rope. There's cotton versions. There's nylon versions. Just get a length of 100-foot piece of rope, cut it into 4, knot the ends off, or tape them so they don't unravel, and you have a nice beginner's kit. Or I'd say the best thing to do is go to Google or go to FetLife and type in rope bite, ROPEBITE, like bite eating something, and you will find, I think, let's see, if you're in the United States, you'll find 54 chapters. If you're out of the country, there's 10 non-U.S. based chapters. These are groups of people who get together, brand new to super experienced, all talking about exactly what you're asking. How do I start? Where do I learn? What do I do? I don't know what I'm doing. What is this? That's what Rope Bite is all about. It is the gateway to rope bondage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, one last question before we take a little break, and when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about Rope Bite International, the organization that you founded, and I think it's a very exciting organization. But the last question I have before we go to break is, other than a good pair of utility scissors, what should people have on hand in terms of safety equipment when they're going to play with rope?
Truthfully, communication. Scissors are fantastic. Yes, every rope person should have a pair of scissors, but I think communication is the most important. Be able to speak and be able to listen, and you need to do that equally because that will alleviate, I would say, 99% of the problems that may occur during any form of play. It's usually when people are not communicating or they're not communicating properly or only one of them is communicating properly that things do happen and go further than they should. So, good pair of scissors and communication.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistakes or the biggest problems I've seen in the lifestyle relate to rope is when somebody fairly new to the activity keeps thinking to themselves, is it supposed to feel this way? Is this the way it's supposed to newbie, and they don't say anything because they're afraid of seeming like a newbie or
naive.
something.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the leg or the arm has gone to sleep, or somebody's turning purple. So definitely communicate.
Exactly.
All right, so we are going to take a 2-minute break, listen to a little music, and we are going to be back after the break with more from Lokai Stein, the founder of Rope Bite International. We're going to talk about the organization, and you're listening to DS Radio with Mike Mackay and Little Red. We'll be right back. We are back. You're listening to DS Radio. My name is Mike Mackay. We're talking to Lokai Stein, a rope artist and educator who likes to bring people together and share his love of rope bondage. And rope bondage happens to be one of my loves as well. So I believe that we're going to have Lokai on more often. If you have any questions for him, give us a call. The number is 347-857-1862. I know a lot of you are shy, so if hearing your voice on the radio will be a traumatic event for you, then please type your question in the chat room. I've seen a few questions there, and we're going to try and get to those before the end of the show. But let's talk a little bit about the founding of Rope Bite. Tell us how you founded this organization, why you founded it, the circumstances behind it, and what are the goals of this organization.
Okay. There is this amazing cafe, Kinky Cafe in San Francisco, right off the corner of Folsom, called Wicked Grounds. It is an 18 and over cafe. There will be dog dishes on the floor, people drinking lattes out of it. There'll be bondage going on in the back. It was a cafe opened by a very good friend of mine, Ryan, in 2009. And while I was working out in San Francisco, I'm sitting with him, and we are brainstorming and just going crazy, saying, how are we going to bring people in here? Now, there were a lot of people coming in. Some people just going, wow, it's an 18 and over place. They poke their head in and they leave because there's giant dildos in wrappings in the in the display cases on the side and these wonderful books and everything else. And I said, let's have a munch. There's so many wonderful things going on in San Francisco, but the one thing that's missing, there's no munch or just food gathering that has the topic of rope bondage. There's some fantastic classes going on around the corner at the Citadel. There's some amazing people in San Francisco doing rope. You have the two Naughty Boys, Dan and JD, were amazing there. Dory's there. And there was, again, Madame Butterfly, who is still in recovery from a stroke, was giving amazing classes there. But there was no place to just go and sit and talk rope. Now, I had been working at Kink at the time, and I was working in the professional world of rope bondage, and I knew all of these professional bondage models and professional riggers. And when I went out at night to have fun, I was with the rest of us, the people that do it just because we love it. And I wanted to bring everyone together and to help my friend Ryan make some money at his cafe. So we started something called Rope Bite. We spelled it B-I-T-E because this was a place to eat and talk about rope. So we held our first Rope Bite, and it got about 45 people. And we're like, wow, we have something. The second month that we held it, we had about 60 people. And by the third month, we had someone who came in, Dodgy Rope from overseas, came in and said, hey, could I start one of these? And so we got a chapter overseas. So it was something that people really needed. And there were rope munches all over the place. And basically what a munch is, for those who may not know, is just a gathering where people meet in a restaurant generally or in someone's home and people bring food and you talk about something. And it's usually a specific topic. So with rope, people were bringing photographs that they shot. They were talking about the rope that they just made, or they brought it and showed it. And then someone said, hey, I just learned this new knot. And in San Francisco, I was able to bring in, again, professional models that people only saw on the Internet. And everyone realized, wow, she's normal. She's like one of us. And some of the guys were like, oh, I love getting tied up. And so people started doing ties and realized that there's no difference between professional and us amateurs. And it's just something that people started enjoying. And it became a regular, and it's still going strong now. Topologist runs it out in San Francisco. And again, we have 60-plus chapters around the world that I know of. There are some that I don't know of. And every week or so I get an update of a new chapter opening up somewhere.
You've produced a short video on how to start your own Rope Bite chapter. Tell us a little bit about, if you're interested in starting a group like this in your hometown, tell us what you'd have to do.
You have to have a love for rope. You need to be someone who doesn't think you're the only one who knows how to do something. You want to be a gateway to everything in the community, not just rope. And you also need to be open to all forms of rope bondage. You may study one style, but you need to be open that, yes, there are other styles and other ways of doing it out there. And if that's the type of person you are who wants to share your knowledge and to educate and be educated by those around you locally, then this might be an option for you. And all you need is a venue. It could be your own home. It could be the local church that rents space out to organizations. It could be your gay and lesbian center down the block. Or, hey, it could be a kinky cafe that'll allow you to talk about adult topics. The money aspect of it is you charge only enough to support the venue. When you're doing it in a restaurant, that is, hey, make sure to order something when you're here and make sure to tip your waiters. If it's in someone's home, it would be, hey, bring some food for the table. And if you need to rent out a hall or something, you only charge the amount that is needed to rent the space. Now, there are different versions of Rope Bite. Some of them are in restaurants. Not much bondage going to be going on there, a lot of talk. Then there are sessions in people's homes where there's a whole bunch of food and there is play going on. Some Rope Bites decided to be more in line of education. For the ones that are homegrown and it's a rope share, or you have a local person who is an educator, then you don't charge for the classes per se. Again, you charge enough to support the venue. But if you want to bring in someone from across the country, a professional educator, or someone who is known for a style that you don't have locally, that's where it's okay to take extra money as like a scholarship fund to bring someone in. Basically, Rope Bite is a not-for-profit type situation. You're not doing it to put money in your pocket. You're doing it to put rope on people and doing that safely.
Red, do you have a question about Rope Bite for Lokai? I've got to turn her microphone on.
Okay, see, look, I was all giggly and bubbly. Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. Can you so come out here to Oklahoma, please, 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 please? Oh, my goodness.
Well, you just came back from Australia, did you not, Lokai?
Well, yes. Lara and I, my girlfriend and I, 1 in a million on FetLife. We go to Australia each year. This year we did not go. We have a lot of other things to do here in the States. But, yes, we do tour parts of Australia each year, basically sharing what we know and learning from people over there. We actually have a couple of chapters of Rope Bite in Australia. So, we do travel a bunch. This year, we're taking things slowly. We're traveling a lot less. We're enjoying our home and our dog and life. But doesn't mean we're not going to be traveling, but not as much as I used to.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah, okay,
Oh, God, please tell me you're coming to FetCon in August in Tampa. Please.
I have not been to FetCon.
I would love to meet you guys.
I have not been to FetishCon in about 6 years since I lived in Florida. It was an event that I did go to when I was producing a lot of art photography, and it's an event that I went to when I was at Kink because it's more of an industry event as opposed to an educational event, and I tend to do more educational events now. So the answer is no, we're not going to be there.
Oh, you just broke my heart.
You are at Test Fest, is that correct?
This year, no. This summer we are taking it slow. We're just doing a couple of local things, and then we're going to be going off to Ohio for an event come September.
Where are you headquartered out of, Lokai?
We're in the Baltimore area now.
Oh, okay, that's right. For some reason I was thinking you were still out of the San Francisco area.
Wonderful city, though.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I love it. And I can definitely sympathize with you on the travel. Since my book came out, I've been doing a lot of major fetish events, and I am really worn out. So,
it's 19 years of doing about a dozen events a year.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do have a question in regards to someone who has discovered that they like being tied up. They really love being bound by rope. Is there a skill to being a rope bunny? Is there something that they need to learn in order to enjoy this better or to be safer?
I might get in trouble for this, but I think it takes more skill and self-awareness to be a rope bottom than a rope top. A rope top, you can do things rotely and you can do it the same every single time. As a bottom, you need to be very aware of your own body. You need to be aware of the person who's tying you. You need to be aware of so many things. It could be if you're female gendered or female anatomy, you need to be concerned about time of month. If you're male anatomy, you need to be very aware of where the rope goes because you can cause severe damage. There are a lot of skills. And basically, talk to acrobats, talk to anyone who does any physical activity, and you will know that there's an immense amount of skill that is needed to endure and to actually survive hurt as little as possible, because there's always going to be some sort of damage done to your body when ropes are going on and being taken off. So yeah, there's a lot of skills for bottoms, and there's some amazing instructors out there. And when One in a Million and I teach, she talks about the bottoming aspect and about the stretching and about the communication and about just being aware of what you're doing and where you are. And I talk about the top aspect.
What do you tell people who say, I love the idea of rope, I appreciate the artistic value of it, but I'm too big, I'm too inflexible, I'm too easily bruised, or whatever reason they have? I mean, what do you tell those people?
Well, I tell them this. If they walk around outside naked, then I'll accept everything that you just said. But they do dress themselves. They do mobilize themselves. They do get around. They do socialize. So that means you can get ropes that feel good on your body. There are ropes. Guess what? A rope could be an inch long. It could be a foot long. It can be 20 yards long. So there is no too big, too small. Now, there are alterations that you may want to make. I'll just use an example. I know this amazing rope top who only has one hand. She was born without a second hand. That doesn't stop her from doing these amazing suspensions. It is just a different technique that needs to be used. Same for bottoming. There's just different techniques that could or should be used, but almost every form could be used on every body. And again, unless you walk around naked, that means you found clothes that fit you. So there are rope styles that will work with you. You just need to make sure that you're not with someone who says, you're too big, you're too small, it won't work. That's where the problem is.
In many of the different types of activities in this lifestyle, you always have a faction, a group of people who pursue the extreme version. You know, you have extreme impact play, you have extreme masochism. Is there extreme rope play, and what does it consist of?
Yes, there definitely is. There's not one particular thing that would label someone or a couple as extreme. But when you go to length of time, there's a short period of time, a long period of time and then an extreme period of time. Being tied up overnight, no problem at all. Being tied up for 3 days, that's extreme. But I know people who have done extended periods of time. Same thing with suspensions. I would say someone who's been doing, let's say, rock climbing or high-angle rescue, they can put someone in a harness and suspend them, and they can be up for 3-4 hours and no problem. But someone who's been doing rope for 6 months and has never fully understood the dynamics and the physics of suspension, just putting someone up for 30 seconds could be really extreme and really dangerous. So I think the extreme aspect is more based on the experience that a person has and what they want to get out of it. If they want to feel pain and they are feeling pain, that might be extreme. But for someone who doesn't feel pain in that time, it may not be extreme. It just may look it. So it's really, there's no way to label what extreme is.
Now that reminds me, I had a friend who was interested in rope bondage and found a mentor. So her and her husband found a mentor, somebody who was going to teach them about rope bondage. And on her very first experience with rope, she was suspended by just one ankle. Now, I don't know the guy who did it, and I don't know all of the details, but tell the audience a little bit about what are the yellow or red flags you would look for in terms of a new rope partner. It's something that tells you maybe this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or maybe he isn't as good as he says he is.
Wow. Again, that's difficult. I'd say go by your gut. If the person says, I'm an expert, I've never hurt anyone, that means you're the first person they're tying up, or they're lying to you. Again, it's communication. Yeah, or both. It's communication-based. I've seen people that I look at and go, there's no way she's going to be able, oh, wow, she just did it. Wow, she did it better than I've ever seen anyone do it before. I want to learn from her. Mm-hmm. So I'd say someone's first experience in rope as a suspension, more than likely was not the best idea for a number of reasons, but then again, she might have been totally fine in it. She might be a gymnast. She was never tied up and suspended, but she does the trapeze. But one reason why I say it might have been dangerous, you have Bottom who says, hey, suspend me. This is my first time. And you do, and she goes or he goes to Mr. Super Experience or Miss Super Experience, and she gets the best suspension of her life. This woman who put the ropes on her did an amazing job, knew exactly where to put the ropes because they were communicating, put this girl up into the air, and it was gorgeous. And then she spins her around. She does all these beautiful maneuvers, and it was the best experience of this Bottom's life. Mm-hmm. And Miss Super Experienced Rope Top says, wow, you were amazing. Go out there, have fun. Please be safe. And now Miss Inexperienced Bottom goes to a local club and looks at the person standing there with rope in their hand and says, hey, I'm an experienced rope bottom. I was suspended by this person. Suspend me. And this person, it's their second time holding rope in their hand. And they're like, wow, this gorgeous woman is telling me she wants to be suspended by me. And ego kicks in.
Yep.
And
I was going to say
and no. There's a broken arm. There's a dislocated shoulder. There's rope burns. So someone being super experienced, suspending someone who's not that experienced, that they're not partnered with, could be setting a really bad precedent because that Bottom just had the best experience of their life, and they're going to seek that out with everyone that they meet, regardless of the experience of that person. Now, that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's what happens, but I have seen that all too often. And that's why me personally, I rarely, if ever, did a suspension with someone who is not seasoned in being tied up. Because I did not want to give them a goal to reattain that would not be easy for them to do so with the partner that they may be with.
Or a false sense of what is normal or what is average out there.
Or
Red,
a full sense of their real experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Red, do you have another question for Lokai before we start wrapping things up?
No, I am now thoroughly wanting to go and learn more because, I happen to enjoy rope quite a bit. It's soothing for me, especially when it's restrictive. And it's very soothing for me. I before my mic cut out, I actually rocked myself to sleep when I was suspended because it was so comforting. I started swinging back and forth. They had me by my hair, my ankles, chest harness. It was a wonderful experience for me. I also know that I know better than to judge everybody by the same standard. So they may not be as concerned with my safety because they just tie people up and that's what they do, but I'm concerned with it. So watching what they do, how they do it, because I don't ever want to take and say somebody's the same caliber as Loki or Lou Rubin, and I've never seen this guy do anything, and he's just in a club. That would be a fatal, fatal mistake.
Yes, and actually I saw Lou Rubin's last weekend. Laura and I were with him, and he's heading off to Australia.
I saw him a couple of weeks ago down at Bondage Expo Dallas. He gave a presentation down there, and actually he was a student in many of the presentations down there. And I think that no matter how good you are, you can still learn from other people. I thought that was very interesting. That I was sitting right next to him in a class where that was basically a beginner's class, and I thought it was very well taught. But here's one of the best in the industry sitting right there next to me in a rope 101 type of a class. So I think that's a good sign.
That what you're saying is super, super important. You're going to notice that some of the best are the ones who are sitting in classes, raising their hand, asking questions, participating in other classes, because you're always going to pick something up. You may not be learning a full technique, but you're going to learn little nuances and little things to throw in your bag of tricks. And that's why the people who are good, because they've listened and they've tried and they've experimented by watching so many other people and doing it themselves, that when they stop attending other classes is when their own skill level, I feel, starts lessening. When they stop learning, their skill basically goes stale.
Now, there are probably people listening to the show tonight who don't realize that there really are classes out there. There are organizations like Rope Bite where learning these techniques is at the top of the list of the things that they do, but there are also classes at many of these fetish events. You probably want to choose your fetish event for those that are kind of educational in nature, that are kind of bondage related. You probably don't want to go to a fetish event that's all about being a professional dominatrix, but you might want to go to one that's all about rope or bondage or those sorts of things. So choose them well. Some of them will be more educational than others, but that's half the fun, I think. So tell the audience, tell the audience how they can look you up or find you or add you on FetLife, or let us know how we can contact you.
All the links to all my profiles and everything else is on FetLife. And just go to FetLife and in the search box, Lochai. You'll be able to find me there. And from there, I have links to RopeBite, which is the website, ropebite.com. Again, it's BITE. There's on FetLife alone, if you type in RopeBite, 2 words in the search box, you're going to come up with RopeBite International, which has a master list of every chapter of RopeBite on FetLife, where they are, when they meet. It's their own organizational profile, or you're just going to see dozens of links for that. Or if you want to learn about me, myself, you can go to LokaiStine.com, LochaiStine, which is, again, my education website. And there's links everywhere there. If you're in Baltimore, I run Bondage Club Baltimore, which is a school of bondage, which there's tuition for. Or there's Rope Bite Baltimore, which is run by The Hammer and Roxy, which is, again, the Rope Bite chapter. But truthfully, if you go to Google and you pop my name in, there'll be quite a few links.
Okay. Now I have a few people in our chat room asking if you accept friend requests on FetLife.
Yes, I do. I will check and this is a pet peeve of mine, I will check your catalog of images, and if there's any images that are not credited or that do not belong to you, I probably will not friend you. I believe in copyright, and I don't believe in stealing of images without giving credit. I've had many people ask me if they can post my pictures, and I've said yes 99% of the time. But please do message me and say that you heard the interview. I love building a group of friends because I do interact with people through FetLife quite a bit, and I enjoy going to an event and having people say, hey, I'd love to meet you and talk and have coffee and stuff like that. So I don't accept play requests. One in a Million and I are monogamous in play and in everything, but I will gladly teach you how to interact with your partners. So yes, please do friend me.
Super. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking with you on tonight's show. I hope we can have you back another time. And I'm also kind of interested in starting a rope bite group. Once I'm done with my next couple of books, it may be a little while, but I'm definitely very interested. And I appreciate you calling. We'll talk to you again. Thank you much.
Thank you. Bye.
And that was Lokai Stein. Check him out on FetLife. You've been listening to DS Radio. I'm Mike Mackay. My co-host's been Little Red, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye now.